Hi everyone, my name is Monica Whitlock. I'm here with Layton. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi.
I've been following Layton for a little bit now. I'm really intrigued about her theories of esoteric Christianity as well as addiction, narcissism, healing wounds, the inversion of emotions, as well as just taking a deeper look within that wounds that are we consider like nowadays like shameful, so we don't talk about them. Layton's channel has been something that has made really impacted my recovery since losing my sister, as well as just everything in my life going forward. And I think those who have ears, let them hear. I think the more awareness we put on things, especially topics that we don't discuss often, the more power there is, because that power is freedom. So, all right, here we go. Money moves. How are you today, Layton?
Really good. What about you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Um, what are you grateful for today?
Oh my gosh, so many things. I woke up feeling very well rested, and I feel like yesterday I had a day that had a lot of laughter in it and lightness. And I woke up and kind of wanted to carry that into today as well. So I'm grateful for
Mm,
that. And I'm grateful that we get to meet face to face and have this conversation, because I love talking about this stuff, and I love connecting with people. So I just feel I'm grateful that it's a sunny day out here today, too. Lots of things.
wow, that's great. Yeah. No, I think like those little like resets too of just like those simple moments
Yeah.
um, really puts into perspective how much there is to be grateful for that we
Mhm.
take for granted, I would say sometimes. We don't mean to, but So thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful. I'm also really grateful to be here with you today. We've been talking for a while now online about meeting and having this podcast episode. So I'm really excited that it's come to fruition today. Um, and yeah, I'm excited. So I guess we'll just dive into it. Let me get my questions out.
I love your tattoo, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much. Do you have any tattoos?
Yeah, I have, I think, 36 tattoos, something like that.
Wow. Like little ones or big ones?
Um, Small to medium sized, kind of scattered everywhere.
Nice. I only have like little ones because it's so painful for me. I can't I can't sit for too long under that stuff.
I understand that.
So I first wanted to kind of talk about something that you've discussed on your channel called like I think it's like the lower doppelganger, right? It's
Mm,
that theory of like I call it alchemy, right? But I
mm.
also see it as like flipping the thought, the inversion of emotions. How did you like? What was it like for you to start that journey of like understanding and like unwrapping those beliefs, and theories?
Mm. Well, I was really interested in alchemy for a long time. And I think that for everyone, you kind of have, there can be different ways where it's expressed to you or explained to you that kind of just makes it click. And so for me, understanding the lower doppelganger was really what made it click for me. Is it was something that I could visualize and say, okay, I have this part of myself, much like I also have the higher self, except this part of myself is made up of my pain and my shadow. And if I'm not careful, I can feed into that to the point where it kind of takes over. And I felt like I had really experienced that in my life where I just let it completely run rampant and do whatever it wanted. And it didn't work for me. And so I think that I had tried for a long time in my life to be a good person and do the right thing and make good decisions, but I had so much pain and so much trauma that was unresolved, and I had no idea how to actually work with that. That I just failed in that endeavor again and again and again, and fell into addiction and all of these things. And so for me, it was really helpful to kind of have that understanding of okay, it's kind of like this balancing act, and it's not about going from being a good person to then you're a bad person to then you're a good person. Or in the new age, we sometimes refer to it as I'm high vibrational now, and then I'm low vibrational, and it can sometimes just get a little convoluted. And so for me, viewing it as, oh, it's just a matter of bringing myself into balance. I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to hyper focus on this idealized version of myself and always being in the higher self. I just have to find a way to bring balance into my life every day. And the more that I started to do that, the less I was associating with with that lower self, and the more space I was kind of putting there, not in a sense of bypassing, but in the sense where learning that balance was actually allowing me to heal and work through things for the first time because I wasn't having such extreme reactions to it.
Thank you for sharing. That's so beautiful. I think something that like really stuck out with to me with what you just said was talking about. I'm going to paraphrase. Correct me if I'm wrong. But you had mentioned how when you were hurting and you were in that lower self, right? You couldn't even pick you didn't even realize you were hurting others. You didn't even realize that like how and other people didn't even realize that you were in pain too. So it's that
Yeah.
such a
Mm-hmm.
disconnect. I know you talked about like addictions and stuff, and I always state too whenever I have the opportunity to talk to anyone about anything, anyone listening, to addiction is an attempt to hide a wound.
Yeah.
The only way out is through, and if you're choosing sobriety or just to get better, I'm really proud of you. It's not
Mm.
easy. Um, but how did you make it from that? Like, was there anything like you said to yourself, phrases or anything that really worked for you that made things click when you're in that lower self to get to where you are now? Because I
Mm.
also agree that like you right there. I mean, it. I always have to be careful with how I phrase things because I'm not victim blaming and I'm not,
Right. Right.
you know what I mean? Like I'm not
Yeah.
validating trauma, right? But I just want to say too, like I feel like that version of you that's so low couldn't the version of you right now maybe if you didn't meet each other like you wouldn't exist right now, you know what I mean? Like you guys
Oh
completed each
yeah.
other a little bit, you know, and you needed that. So was there
Mhm.
anything that got you through that from here to here, made that jump or connection?
I mean, I'm the kind of person that I always have to learn everything the hard way. And I think that's a blessing because then I can share that with other people and then hopefully they won't have to. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, it was more of a matter where I kept swinging the pendulum so far in one direction and then so far in the other. For example, I experienced an overdose and I had a near death experience with that. And then when I came out of that, I was kind of like, okay, now I'm sober and I don't have these problems anymore and I'm healed now, this kind of mindset. And so I unknowingly was then living in this kind of blissed out, dissociated state of now I'm just bypassing those things. And it was great because I had the motivation that I didn't have before to make certain changes in my life, but I still was bypassing so many things. And so then that obviously caught up with me. And then the pendulum started to swing the other way when I had a really significant death in my life and I started drinking a lot again. And it wasn't anywhere to where it had been the first time, but I realized, okay, I'm doing this pendulum swing. And then I would be like, now I need to get it together and go all the way the other way. And so I think the few things that helped me were, again, realizing that it wasn't about going from being my worst self to my most idealized self because that just was not going to happen. That I needed to, instead of focusing on this is the person that I need to be, I needed to just focus on how can I love myself and be more neutral? How can I love myself and be more balanced? How can I be compassionate with myself and try and neutralize things a little bit without being so extreme? And then also understanding that I only needed to move as quickly as the lowest or the slowest part of myself because if I if I moved beyond what my capacity was, I was setting myself up for failure every single time. And that's what was causing those extreme pendulum swings.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah. And I'm sorry, my condolences about the death in your life.
Thank you.
Grieving is an everyday thing for me as well. And, so
Yeah.
I'm really grateful that you're able to share these messages, because it's so easy to not. It's so easy to conform and to be a product rather than have that like creator mindset and like speak about the things that are important. So thank you. I love how you phrase that too about it's not necessarily about changing and needing to change and control that perception, or it's just about accepting and like loving and accepting yourself exactly as you are.
Yeah.
I lost like over like 120 pounds in a year, like recently. Your content was one of those reasons too, as well. Which is just like all like it's a mindset, it's all spiritual, right? But something that got me through where I was after like my sister's death was like, if I can't love and accept myself, this girl that I am right now, I will never love the girl I want to be.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because we're the same. We're fighting for the same things. And the only way out is through. So like, you know what I mean? Sitting with those lower emotions and those stressors, because our triggers are trying to help us. They're trying to tell us something that like we're not okay right now. And I believe it's about coming back to center and being like, all right, so what can we do to take care of ourselves instead of like shame, judge, and like I'm not enough, all those like worthiness wounds, Thank you for that.
And I've been thinking about that a lot too lately with how we have this inner critic. And I think that the inner critic gets such a bad rep, honestly, most of the time, when the entire purpose that it serves is to protect us from something that it thinks that we're not ready for. And if we enter into that relationship where instead of when the inner critic comes up, shaming ourselves and being like, oh, here's this bully again, and now I'm bullying myself and treating myself horribly, understanding that that the inner critic is coming from a place of fear and wanting to protect a certain part of ourselves. And so then it's about dissecting what is it trying to protect and how can I bring that safety into my body and resource that within myself so that I don't have to have that fear response to these things,
Yeah, I did. Thank you for saying that. I did a lot of like internal family systems work. That's the therapy I've been in my whole life, which I'm so grateful for. And that like inner child, and I think like, would you talk to a child that way? No. So why are you talking to yourself that way? Why are you talking to others that way? You know what I mean? Because like that's that source energy, Yeah. And I think, what is your perspective right now on how, I don't want to say it's cancel culture, right? But I mean, it is technically, I guess it's the same thing. Personally, for example, for me, I struggle with gossiping. I've always struggled with this. I've struggled with people who gossip, people who shame others.
Right.
I've really struggled with the media. And just even that conversation, like I was bullied when I was a kid and stuff, and in college as well. And it's those things, revisiting those chapters are so painful for me. I know we're all on different timelines, right? So love people. However, it's also like, it's also like, what do you think of what's going on right now in terms of like online? I see a lot of terms that are like narcissists and like stuff like that. And something so important is your 2-part videos on those, I forget what it said, understanding the mind of the narcissist. Is that what it's called?
I think it's the nervous system of the narcissist. Yeah.
And like those 2-part videos I've sent to every single person I know. And I just feel like it is so important that we look at people, human beings, through a lens of this and ourselves. Because I see so much cruelty and apathy and hatred, and it's heartbreaking. And again, if there's no light, be the light. However, what are your thoughts on everything that's going on right now? Because I know you released it about like a year ago, maybe over a year.
Yeah, those were actually my first official YouTube videos. Before that, I had uploaded a couple of TikToks that I just transferred over there. But it was so funny because when I posted them, I had shared them on YouTube and then copied them onto a bunch of different social media platforms and instantly had a really negative response to it. And I was thinking,
Mm.
really wish that people would listen to this because we have this tendency to demonize each other and want to blame each other. And really, it also can stem from this place of not feeling validated in our own pain and feeling like if we understand that someone else's actions are coming from their pain, that somehow invalidates ours. But that's not really what's happening, and it gives us this amazing opportunity to see everyone as a little bit more human. And I think what people misunderstand and why it can be so triggering is that they think, oh, so that means that we have to just let these
Mm.
people in our lives or say that their behavior is okay or we're making excuses for them or something when we don't have to do any of those things. And I would never suggest that anyone keep someone in their life who is actively and consistently harming them. We need boundaries. Boundaries are so important. However, I found it to be very beneficial for my own healing to be able to see other people through that lens and understand that their actions toward me were not personal. Even if they thought they were personal at the time, it's so much bigger than me. It's so much bigger than the situation that happened, and it really has to do with their pain. And of course, like most people, I came to that conclusion first through the understanding and recognition that the ways that I treated people when I wasn't my best self, that was a reflection of my pain and not of them. And so I had to take accountability for that. But of course, there's that element of, well, I didn't mean it because I was in pain. And so often a lot of people, we get to that first part, but then we don't know how to apply that to other people and make it true for other people too. And so that was something that was very important to me is if I am expecting this grace and understanding for myself and I'm able to see how being so dysregulated and in survival mode impacted me in all of these ways, why wouldn't that apply to other people? And so I started doing a lot of research on neuroanatomy and trauma and the biochemical processes and what's actually happening to someone when they experience significant trauma. What happens to someone's brain when they're in survival mode? How does that impact their nervous system, and how is that going to impact their actions?
Mm.
And from my perspective, once you see things that way, it's not that we're making excuses for people. It gives us a lens to understand where these behaviors come from. And that doesn't mean that we have to accept certain behaviors as being okay. Of course, that's not what we're doing, but it stirs up deeper understanding and empathy within us. And I also really strongly believe in change and transformation and that people can change and transform. And I believe that because I've had that experience in my own life and I want to extend that to other people. I think we should all extend that to more people.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that. I agree with you, and I think it's tough when going backwards a little bit. We were talking about, for example, like when you were in that mindset, that the lower emotions, right, the lower self, you couldn't even see yourself. So how are you going
Yeah,
to see someone else? You know what I mean?
exactly.
Yeah, and like having that compassion, I wish that, a wish is a negative term, but it's unfortunate sometimes that we have to go through something in order to understand it
Mm,
or understand others, because I also believe that we can only meet others to the level of which we've met ourselves at.
yes.
But I don't wish any of that upon anyone, you know. Um, but there is such a gift in that alchemy, and I think having that like duality mindset is everything. Just because
Mm,
you're one way and then another person comes in, it doesn't mean that you're not there anymore. Now there's two of you, you know. And I think
right.
it's tough when we're looking at life through that egocentric
Mm,
lens. I believe that like narcissism is when, because again, like I do IFS, internal family systems. I
Right.
believe it's when parts of us are stuck at that age and they can't see where they are, so
Yeah.
they're in that survival. So when you help a child who needs help, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to become that parent for ourselves. Um, but I do agree that I believe in evolution. I believe in change. I
Mm.
truly do. Especially if you can, this is how I talk to most people right now. If this is happening in your life right now, that's so negative, right? Think about what the opposite could be.
Yeah.
Like, and I do a little bit of like astrology and stuff too. So that's how typically what I talk about with people as well, just to help breach that like understanding. We talk about a lot about like abundance and luck. And it's like, okay, so if you're this lucky and all these terrible associations are happening for you, think about the opposite. The opposite must be true. Let's get to that
Mm.
level, because like it has to vibrate at the same
Mm.
frequency. And also, the same energy you can use to hate someone, right? You can use to love
Yes.
them. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
And I love that too, because it really is about realizing that it's exactly what you were saying. To the measure that we're having one experience that may feel so dark and negative, we can have that experience in a way that is very fulfilling and makes us feel whole and that's filled with love and compassion. And I love the saying, the darker the shadow, the brighter the light, because I think it's 100% true. And I think back on, I mean, all the time, I think back on my past and all of the things that I did and how dark of a place I was in. And I'm so stunned by my life now and how different everything is, how different my inner world is. Because I think I spent a really long time still kind of being in that darker, lower inner world. And I was trying to change my outer actions and thinking that that was going to be enough to change the inner. And
Mm,
again, that was because I really had no balance at the time. I had to really neutralize things to even get to the point where I could see a future for myself at all, because things
mm,
were so extreme at the time.
mm,
And so then being able to kind of bridge that gap and see how different my life could actually be, and having those little glimmers of, oh, I've had this many days where I'm doing so much better now, and this many days where I'm finally feeling joy for the first time. And all of those things kind of started to create a map that allowed me to see, oh, if I can experience this today, I also have the capacity to experience this for a more extended period of
mm,
time, because you're kind of creating a map for things that you've never experienced before or didn't feel like existed. And, in the somatic world, they call that glimmers, and kind of honing in on those glimmers to ground us and to help us resource more within our body. Um,
mm.
and the more that we do that, the more it will pull us out of that survival state and kind of begin this building of a new template, a new way of living.
Mm, mm. Do you think that because you've experienced a lot of um, those lower emotions for a lot of your life, did you feel like you was your mentality a little bit like, because this is this way, it's because of me. I'm bad, so this environment is bad, so this is just what makes sense.
Yeah.
Versus what the other would be true is like, this sucks right now. I also need to, I don't know, just like let's work through it in order, because like we were born from love, we're deserving, we're worthy inherently. We were not brought here to live a miserable life, despite popular belief.
Right.
Um, how did you make that shift? Because I was there too in that lower stuff for so long.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I definitely for a long time believed that I was bad. I didn't necessarily believe that life was bad. I thought that I always kind of had hope. The hope just wasn't for myself, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I believed there was a lot of goodness in the world, but I thought that I was a magnet for darkness and bad things and tragedy, it just felt like tragedy followed me everywhere that I went. It was very difficult to escape that. And so, I kind of just got to that point where I was trying to figure out how to balance that. And so I had to really hone in on anytime something positive happened in my life, anytime there was any kind of positive pattern, something that I could hone in on or hold on to. I was clinging to it desperately like a life raft or something
Mm.
in order to keep myself out of that constant negative self-talk, because I had a lot of that. And then I would do a lot of journaling where I would write from my higher self to my inner child. And that helped me tremendously because, again, would you talk to a child like that? Are you going to yell at and berate a child? Are you going to terrify a child by saying that there's no future for you, and all you do is attract these negative things and you're so bad? And I wouldn't. And so I would visualize constantly holding myself as a child and speaking these things over myself. And I started to say things out loud to myself in the mirror. And I would feel really like silly in the beginning doing that. And I just kept doing it because I believed that it mattered and that it was going to make a difference. And having an understanding of the nervous system and knowing that the nervous system, it doesn't know the difference, not cognitively the way that we know the difference between, I cognitively know if I'm speaking something versus if someone else is. But the nervous system isn't connected to that process. It doesn't cognitively know that. It just hears the words. It feels what they create in the body. It feels that sense of felt safety and it sinks into that. And so
Mm.
understanding that was pivotal for me, because no matter how goofy or silly I felt, I knew that if I was consistent with it and kept loving on myself and speaking over myself the way that I would a child and meeting my needs that way, instead of always saying, this is ridiculous. Why do you feel this way? Why are you
Mm.
is inappropriate, or shaming my inner child in that way? Every time I would do that, I was shutting myself down more and I was dissociating from my own emotions more. And I was not able to actually heal or integrate anything because I was just shutting it down and kind of shoving it into a corner. And so, bridging that gap by giving my inner child the safe container that I never felt like I had as a child, the container to express emotions that sometimes felt dramatic or sometimes felt silly or could feel stupid, to give myself that safe container to express all of those things without shaming it made a tremendous impact, although it was very difficult to do at the time.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that. I also feel like too, like if you were engaging in this much self harm, this much self hatred, right?
Yes.
Um, let's give something else a try, even if it is silly. Like you deserve more. You deserve
Yeah.
it. It may be stupid for a little bit, but like we'll get over it.
Yeah.
Because like you deserve it. And I wonder too, like, do you think your inner child sees you right now? What would she say if she was in the same room as you?
Mm.
Would she recognize you or no?
I think
I feel like
that,
she'd be freaking out.
yeah, she would be completely stunned and be like, how did this happen? And I think it would also be amazing too, because she was always looking for that role model, and always looking for the qualities that I have now in other people. And obviously it's not that I've arrived or anything like that. There's always more work to be done. But she would be able to look up to me and probably think I was the coolest, and be so excited to grow into that, as opposed to before where she felt like she had no future, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And also, like, if you think that this is, we're in that mindset, right? If you think that this is all there is, of course, you wouldn't want to do, of course, like, you wouldn't want to change because this is all there is.
Yeah.
So, like, that scarcity, you're holding on to it. Um,
Yeah.
Instead of like creating your 3D, you were just
Mm,
reacting to it.
right.
Versus now, I feel like you're able to create it and then respond to
Yeah.
it and choose what you want to respond to and what you don't want to.
Mm.
That's beautiful.
And it's incredible realizing, everyone was telling the truth. Everyone that said that you can shape your own reality, that was a real thing. It wasn't some fake, quirky, new age thing that's not real. It's
Right.
very real. You can shape your reality. You can change things. Your life can look unrecognizable in every way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. And I thought the same way up until like a couple years ago. I was like, there's no need for me to like what I consume, right? Like whether it's food, whether it's music, whether it's just like frequencies, everything, right? Whatever I consume, there's no way that that could take over me. There's no way
Right.
that I don't know, you know what I mean? That like limited thinking model,
Yeah.
which again is scarcity because that's all I thought I had.
Mm.
But to that point, when you destroy that mindset, right? Because destruction is also a form of creation, you know? Um, I just feel like sometimes you have to like destroy the old version of yourself to get to the new version because you can't take
Right.
everyone with you. Everyone is in like parts of yourself, your
Yeah.
experiences, etc., or physical people, you know, whatever applies. But there's always more for you waiting. You know,
Mm.
like again, like I will not stop stressing the fact that we were not brought here to live a miserable life. We really
Amen.
were not. And I feel like your work, what you do every day, impacts so many people, and it's just testimony for that. So again, I just want to say thank you so much. I applaud you. I'm so grateful for you and for your content, everything you do for others and for your audience. It's life changing.
Thank you. Oh, you're making me emotional.
I was crying too when you started talking about that stuff. Ooh, but yeah, thank you. Where can people find you?
So I'm on YouTube as Psychic Somatics. That is also my Instagram handle. And then my website is just Psychic Somatic because someone else took my name, even though it's unused or something. I'll probably deal with that in the future. But that's where I am right now. I'm no longer on Twitter or anywhere else.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to share today for someone who's like in perhaps is in that lower space or who knows someone in that lower space?
Probably just that it's okay to take it slow. It doesn't mean that you are doing anything wrong. Often, I think it's so easy for us to compare ourselves to other people and where they're at, but everything happens one step at a time. And it's really important to honor where we are at so that we don't set ourselves up for failure and understand that honoring that is a huge part of the process that will actually empower and motivate us more in what we're doing.
Amen. Thank you so much, Layton. Thank you so much for everything, for meeting with me today. This has been so wonderful. Um, Layton's links will be in the description as well, and you can follow me. I am Monica Whitlock, Moni Moves, and thank you so much for tuning in.